The NFL draft is about rising, falling, getting evaluated in a way that makes you look like you can fit on an NFL roster. There are some questions about how that gets done from both the media and from players. We're going to get into that today on Locked On NFL Draft.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of the Locked On NFL Draft Show. I'm your host, former NFL and NFL defensive back, Eric Crocker. And of course, I'm joined by my co-host, my guy, Ryan Tracy. And we're here, man. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff that's going on in the draft. What was said by Kirk Herbstreit, Desmond Howard, and how that pertains to players opting out, playing in bowl games, getting hurt, the importance of it, and maybe guys thinking about their future. So let's get into it. Kirk Herbstreit, Desmond Howard. They basically came out and said kids don't love the game anymore. So they're opting out of bowl games that they would have loved to play in. And they're like, well, if it's not a playoff game, it's not important. All right. And you have guys, Kenny Pickett, he opted out. Matt Corral, he played in the game. One guy got hurt in the game and potentially, and hopefully it doesn't, but it could potentially hurt his draft stock. Hopefully it's not as bad. Do you side one way or the other, or what's kind of your viewpoint on this whole thing?
It's the separation between my personal point of view, what I want to see, and what I think should be said about it, because I think there are two different things. And we'll get into Matt Corral coming up a little bit later, you guys. For me, I want to see guys compete at every level. I don't think it's what's going on is that players don't want to compete anymore, that they don't love the game enough. I would rather see that. I have to say, this bowl season in particular, it's been a lot of, okay, am I going to watch this game? And what evaluation am I going to get out of it? Because there's nobody on the field right now that I have to have some evidence for. That's the thing for me. But I think what you get from Herbstreit and from announcers is they're trying to sell their product. They're announcing a ball game. They're trying to get viewership. And I understand from their point of view, it knocks down their product. I don't think it's necessarily coming from the prospects, though. I think there's a lot of smart agents out there who look at what happened to Matt Corral and say, listen, we're not going to take a chance on that. Whether you're not in a playoff or you are or whatever it is, you have the opportunity to get into a rare position in the NFL, and we're not going to put that at risk. And I think it's more the influence of the business side coming into decision-making more than the players that don't want to play. But I was happy to see Devin Lloyd out there for the Utah. But did he help himself? I'm not so sure. He missed a couple of tackles, and I think actually he's going to get dinged for that performance, to tell you the truth. I think that's what you weigh. Are you dedicated to this game and this roster, this team that you're with, or are you thinking about your future? And I think just for some guys, it becomes more about the business.
Right. Now, we talked about it a little bit in previous episodes, but, the first time that we've really heard about this happening was Christian McCaffrey, was Leonard Fournette in that draft. Those guys happen to be in the same class, and they opted to play out. And I'm like, what is this? And I had the mindset of Kirk Herbstreit and Desmond Howard, like, oh, man, like we fought together to get to this point, and we're in the biggest game of the year. And all of a sudden, like, you're not going to play in it for your own personal reasons. But I do think now kids, I call them kids. I'm 34 years old now, and I feel like I'm like the OG. But they are more aware of their brand. They're more aware of how much they mean, and how their bodies, and they're aware of what's going on. I think they still have the same, kind of allegiance to their schools, to their roster, to their teams, but they understand just a bigger picture of my goal is to go to the NFL, right? Most of these kids, their goal is to go to the NFL. There's not a lot of kids coming up saying, hey, my goal is to be an Oklahoma Sooner, right? Boomer Sooner. Like, that's not their thing. Their whole thing is, I want to get to the league. So I think when they feel like they put enough on film, on tape, to get them to that point to where, okay, I'm ready to start preparing. This one last game isn't going to help me. They're out. Now, the thing that how I feel a certain way, say if you Ohio State, right? Ohio State, they had 2 opt-outs, and we'll talk about some of the other players, but Olave and Garrett Wilson, like, they did not play. But they still get one of these. They still get that championship ring. So it's like, man, we got to a big game, the Rose Bowl, and you decide to opt out, but you still get the same hardware we get, I'm not saying I would be a hater, do your thing, but I would probably feel some type of way just a little bit. But overall, we'll wrap it up. Do you think that maybe Desmond Howard and those guys were a little out of line or insensitive for their comments that they made on the youth coming up? And do you think
I think
they will be justified by seeing, Kenny Pickett, he didn't play, but then Matt Corral, again, who got hurt, and we'll see how that potentially affects his draft stock.
I think they were pushing a point of view from their point of view, not necessarily what's best for the players, because I think that is significant risk, and you'll see that with Matt Corral, who we'll talk about here in a little bit.
Right. So, but first, before we get into Matt Corral or anybody else, we want to talk to you guys a little bit about Built Bar. All right. Listen, it's the new year, so I know what that means. New year, new me, New Year's resolution. And if yours is about getting fit and eating healthier, make sure you include Built Bars into your plan. Built Bar is a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, and maybe even better than a candy bar. Built Bar makes it easier for you to stick to your New Year's resolution because, it tastes so good, you'll want to eat it. All right. And unlike other protein bars, which can be chalky and waxy and really taste like a chemical pill, Built Bar, it tastes really good. You're going to want to eat healthy, but it gets so boring, especially by like week 3. You might start to think like, man, it's just not worth it. Where is my chocolate? Built Bar is covered with 100% real chocolate. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Compare that to a candy bar, which usually has roughly 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. And here's an idea for your new year. All right. I know we all have it. We all have our stashes at home, whether it's in your purse, your car, your desk, wherever your little snack, your pantry. Take all those snacks out that don't help you, that have all these empty calories, replace it with the Built Bar, and grab that Built Bar when you feel like snacking on something. And even if you're not a huge fan of working out, it still helps to eat better and put something in your body that's better for you. So they got a bunch of flavors: coconut, almond, peanut butter, brownie, raspberry, cookies and cream, salted caramel. Those are my favorites. Mint brownie, and many, many more. In fact, there's always new ones that they're coming out with all the time, limited time flavors. So check the built.com and check back often. All right. And you're going to go to built.com. You're going to use promo code LOCK15 to get 15% off your order. Again, use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com.
Eric, I want to ask you, right from your point of view, because I know how I feel. And right now, folks, we understand that it's a significant injury to Matt Corral. We don't know that it's going to cost him anything in this draft process or any time going forward, OTAs or anything, once he is drafted. You have him on one side of the pill. You have Kenny Pickett on the other. Eric, what would you do if you were in their position, a senior top 15 possible selection? What does that decision process go to for you?
It's tough because I love playing football so much. I just love, running out of that tunnel, getting excited. I like putting on my gear, looking sweet out there. I just love playing football so much. In my opinion, it would be hard for me to say I'm not playing. But again, like you said, this decision, it might come down from the agents. It might even just be out of the players' hands. A lot of these guys are getting representation now. You got the NIL that's making guys really interact with agents and stuff more. So you talked about seeing like just it being so polarizing this year with the amount of guys sitting out. That might be because guys are talking to agents a lot earlier now than they have in previous years. So yeah, I would tell you, oh yeah, I'm playing just because I love playing football. But my agent is like, you're not playing. Listen, this is your draft grade. It's probably not going to get any better from you going out and playing in this game. Let's sit out. Let's make sure we don't risk an injury. Like a guy, and I don't know what his class was, but a tight end for Utah. He got chopped down. It looked really bad. It looked really bad in the Utah versus Ohio State game. I hope he didn't tear his knee up. But he hobbled. He tried to walk. You could tell he threw his helmet. He was upset.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what if that was a guy that's draft eligible? So those are things. And injuries can happen at any time. But I think when it's a game that is, I don't want to say pointless. The Rose Bowl is a big, prestigious bowl game. But guys are starting to prioritize it just a little different.
Yeah, for me, I agree with you. It's just such a process. So that brings us to Matt Corral. He made the decision to play. Now, I felt like he and Pickett were neck and neck for, again, both will be pushed up higher than they would, say, if they came out in last year's draft class or the year before that or whatever. They will go higher than they would have if they were against better competition. But I did think that they were the two leaders in this quarterback class. Now with the injury to Corral, and again, we don't know the extent or what it's going to be in the coming weeks here, folks, but dealing with it as it is, Eric, what do you think it does to where the two of them sit, and are they separating by a lot? Was our mock accurate, or do you think that there's going to be a little bit more blow over there?
Well, in our mock, we had those guys both going top 10, right? I believe we had Corral going 8 overall to the Panthers. We had Pickett going number 5 overall to the Giants. And maybe that's high. We'll find out as the drop process goes. But I think the thing that will hurt Corral is if he can't work out at all throughout this process. You know, that's the thing. We don't know the extent of this injury. I mean, something like that, the way it happened, to me, it looked like a high ankle sprain. But let's say, you know, in high ankle sprain, he'll be ready to go in 4 to 6 weeks. Knock on wood. I just knocked on wood. All right. Yeah. I don't even know if this is real wood, but high ankle sprain, let's hope it's something like that. If it's anything worse, how does that affect his ability to really showcase his talent for scouts? Will he be participating in a pro day? Like, that's huge, right? For guys that just, he's already not the most physically opposing player, right? Matt Corral, he's a little bit smaller in stature. He's not this big, strong arm guy. You know, he's a quicker, like shorter, one of these guys that can throw the ball around. But I think you're going to need to see him live and in person and see how that ball comes out of his hands, get him on the move, throws on the move, like all the things that you're going to want to see in person. Because it's one thing to watch these guys live or watch them while, you know, watching the all 22. It's a whole nother thing to be eye level, see how he carries himself, see how he's moving, see how big that moment is with those, you know, 50, 60, 70 scouts and everything all around him, and see how that is. And real quick, I'll talk about my experience with private NFL workouts. You know, my first NFL workout was with the New Orleans Saints. They flew me in during the Super Bowl. 49ers were there with the Baltimore Ravens, stuff like that. So I'm there working out for the Saints. And I mean, there's 50 guys just staring at me and judging my every move. You know, there's nobody else to take the pressure off. There's no lineman out there. There's no linebacker. It's how do you move? How do you break? Getting in and out of your breaks. Are you catching the ball? Are you out of shape? Are you tired? What does your physique look like? For Matt Corral, they're going to be looking at all of those things. So I know a lot of people call it like the underwear Olympics and all that. Like, no, like that's probably more pressure than playing in front of, you know, 80,000 people, because all eyes are on you. All eyes on every movement. And this is the biggest job interview of your life. And everything you do, they're checking something off. So will Matt Corral have the opportunity to do that, especially for a guy when they see him in street clothes? He's probably going to look smaller than some of the other guys like a Kenny Pickett, who, because he didn't play, he's 100% healthy.
And he's bigger, more stout to begin with, right? I think that's a significant aspect of it. And right now, as we sit, I don't have an official day on the Ole Miss Pro Day, but we're talking roughly, give or take, 10 weeks. If it's a high ankle, you should be fine. If it's MCL, that gets a little bit more iffy. If there's a meniscus issue there, that gets a little more iffy. From my perspective, as a performance coach for the last 20 years, how do you get a guy prepared? Are the things you can overcome as simple as bracing him up, letting him do 7-on-7 dropbacks and get the ball out of his hand? Because at the end of the day, he's put what he needs to put on film. I think this is going to be really unique. And unfortunately for him, being a more mobile athlete, that you want to be able to show that ability that makes you unique. I think it's a little bit tough for him. We're just going to have to see what the prognosis is. But that pro day looks like it's going to be the big measuring stick for him.
Right, man. It's just unfortunate, especially already for kind of a weaker class. And this is maybe something that can catapult these guys up. When we get back, we're going to talk about a couple of receivers that maybe started to kind of inject themselves into, maybe not like, you know, a first round or anything like that, but some guys that said, hey, I'm here too. I can perform too. All right. And we're going to get into that one after we talk to you guys a little bit about Get Upside. All right. Now, listen, Get Upside is an incredible app that everyone who buys gas needs to know about. All right. My listeners are making up to, 25 cents for every gallon of gas, every time they fill up, just download the free Get Upside app in your app store in Google Play right now. Use promo code touchdown and get a bonus 25 cents per gallon on your first fill up. That's up to 50 cents cash back. All right. Don't pay full price at a gas pump ever again. Get your cash back by using Get Upside. Just download the app for free, use promo code touchdown, and get 50 cents cash back on your first tank. Some people who drive a lot more than I do, because I live in a small city, I don't do a whole lot of driving, but people that drive a lot, they're making what, $200-$300 back in cash by using this. And the crazy part, there's no catch. And you can cash out extremely easily, right? By using your bank account, your PayPal, your e-gift card, whatever it is, Amazon, whatever it is that you use that right now. So just download the app. Again, it's for free, y'all. It's free. Get Upside, use the promo code touchdown, and get 50 cents a gallon cash back on your first full tank. Why not fill all the way up? All right. You guys go do that right now. All right, Ryan, let's talk a little bit about a couple receivers, right? I brought up one, you brought up one. So let's start with your guy, Cedric Tillman out of Tennessee. What did you see from him?
Man, just the ability to accelerate. Now, he got some off coverage. He got some things that helped him there. But for a man of his size, and I think this is a really interesting class, a plus class for the bigger X receivers. But I feel like they're going to test really well athletically. I think we see that on the field. And to have that kind of size and still be able to accelerate, I thought that was a big prospect for him in particular in Tillman. But I think that class overall is saying, hey, we're not the old school, quote unquote, possession receivers anymore. We can do it all. We have enough athleticism to stretch a defense as well. Maybe it's just, in man coverage. Maybe it's not demanding rolled coverage to your side if they're giving you too high or whatever they're trying to do. But I think it's more than we've seen in years past. And I'm really excited about that aspect of it instead of just these, tiny Z type receivers or slot guys. If you're a kid in high school today, don't play running back, play slot. I'm just telling you.
Yeah. And Tillman, I mean, that's a big body guy. We're talking about 6'3", 215 pounds. He's a guy who stretches the field vertically. You talked about the performance that he just recently had against Purdue, and he had some big time plays keeping them in the game. 150 yards on 7 catches, 3 touchdowns. And that's not even including the couple times late in the game where he got behind defenders and the quarterback just missed the throws, right? So that's going to be something that we continue to look into. Cedric Tillman, in the process of this NFL, does he kind of come on and catch on late as one of these receivers who has big time ability? Now, I need to find out, is he going to any bowl games? I'll be at the Senior Bowl. Shout out to our guys over at Locked On NFL Draft or Locked On Network. They got us credentialed for the Senior Bowl. So we'll be there. And Cedric Tillman, seeing how he potentially could stretch the field with his big body, his frame, that's going to be a guy that I'm very intrigued to continue to watch. And he's not the last of the big guys who have big performances. Tay Martin out of Oklahoma State, 6'3", 190-pound receiver, had a big day against Notre Dame. And really, I mean, I don't know how much of that game you watched, but it was an amazing game. Notre Dame jumped out to a big lead. Oklahoma State battled back, pulled out the game late, 37-35 win. And Martin, he contributed big time, 10 receptions, over 100 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he showed the ability to win in all phases. He's a longer guy and maybe isn't just like this pure separator, but he has terrific body control. He's able to make those contested type catches. He extends the catch radius. Again, this is another guy who has, productive. He's a senior. If I'm not mistaken, he's going to be at the East-West Shrine game. So I'm definitely going to try to make my way to Vegas to get an eye on this kid. I'm going to be very busy traveling throughout the draft process and getting an evaluation of all of these guys. But we're going to get into more prospects, but it was really good to see 2 of these guys stand out, really jump out, and contribute to keeping their teams in some of these bowl games that other people are saying, hey, don't matter. I'm going to opt out. These guys said, no, I'm playing in these games, and I'm going to help my draft stock.
Yeah, and I think it did in both of their cases. Yes, we need to see them at the All-Star games, but again, what you put on film to end that season, especially for these 2 guys, multiple touchdown games, exploiting the defense in multiple ways, I thought both of them stood out. And Tay Martin was a guy that I wanted to watch before bowl season. I was pretty high on him before, and he certainly lived up to my expectations. The question will be, the wide receiver classes we've seen the last couple of years have been really stacked. I don't think this one is as strong, but I think it might be deeper. Where do you see these two right now?
That's what we're going to have to find out. And, this is it's a fluid situation with the draft process and seeing how these guys kind of pan out. I can't wait to get into rankings, especially, you guys, y'all know I'm receiver, defensive back guy. I can't wait to get into rankings on these guys and also really get into a lot of the other positions as well, the edge rushers, the linebackers, and start to kind of really put together our big boards. And we're going to get to all that and more right here on Locked On NFL Draft. Man, we are really just getting started. We're starting to heat up. We're talking more prospects. This is the best time of the year for us, and we can't wait to really give all this to y'all. Y'all listen to us, and we want to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Again, if you guys want to interact a little bit more with us, follow us on Twitter. I'm Eric Crocker at Eric_Crocker on Twitter. That's Ryan Tracy NFL on Twitter. Make sure you guys give him a follow. And if you already listened to Locked On NFL Draft Show, listen to Locked On 49ers with myself, Brian Peacock. Listen to Locked On NFL Chiefs with Ryan Tracy. But until next time, you guys will catch us on the next episode with Rob Ring. We appreciate the listen, and we are out, y'all. Peace.